the common mistakes you see mostly from buyers, owners?
I think the biggest and most costliest mistake would be the failure to understand the tax administration. Because increasingly we are living at a point where the tax authority is very, very strong.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've looked around, but banks are very hesitant to give loans to individuals.
Is it because they don't trust us? Is it because you're not Kenyans? Come on.
No.
Banks in Kenya, come on.
It is when banks are giving out loans, what are the biggest things that they're looking at? Risk. Because their money is at risk, right?
All right.
Their money is out there, so the biggest thing is risk. So if you have it, if they give Boris, the guy, money, this guy, man, can just disappear. He can decide to go to the Bahamas. And, go
he
enjoys
the money and
comes back.
and there's nothing he can do.
Yeah, I mean, and Boris is just a simple man, he just fell into some money, he disappears,
Yeah.
Or even Boris can pass on.
Yeah.
How do they start getting money back from Boris?
It's a guy, Boris Yeltsin. They call me the wolf of real estate. Welcome back to Realty Boris podcast. And today we're going to talk about amazing topic that I think would inform so many people when it comes to ownership of real estate. It's all about individual ownership versus company ownership. With me is Mr. Cheluget. It's called the Wandering Lawyer.
Thank you very much, Boris.
Yeah.
I think today the wolf of real estate meets the wandering lawyer.
Amazing.
We have collided.
Why do they call you Wandering Lawyer?
Because I'm always traveling. I'm always on the move. For example, yesterday I was in Tanzania. Can you imagine?
You love going to Tanzania a lot. I don't know why.
I plead the fifth.
I see.
I'm always moving, and I'm always moving, looking for investments as a lawyer and as a traveler.
Amazing. So, if you get to watch this to the end, you'll get to understand the benefits of owning a property via company and individuals, things to avoid, the tax situation, and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things that you'll get to understand if you get to watch these from the beginning till the end. Now, where we are in a beautiful 1, 2, and 3 bedroom just off Mogoti Road. It's coming up nicely. It's a project that is ready for people who want to invest just like Boris and the Wandering Lawyer. This is something you can buy for an investment. It's a 1 bedroom. You also have got 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. 1 bedroom from 9 million. In case you are interested, the number has always been on your screen. Shall we get back to you? Tell me, what is it like? Explain to me. Individual ownership versus company ownership. What is it? Explain it.
Very good. I think let's first begin by defining what a company is. Because I think most people unfortunately confuse, especially local Kenyans and also foreigners. You see, when you talk about a company, many people confuse that with a business name. So, for example, if you have a business name registered as Boris, that doesn't mean that it's a company. As a matter of fact, the business name and the individual are one and the same person. The company, on the other hand, is for all legal purposes considered to be a separate legal personality. And so it is an animal that is constructed under the law, where you literally go, register the corporate but with the business registration services. And then once you register it, then you have a company.
All right.
So it's important to first distinguish between
individual,
which is a business name, and a company.
Okay? All right.
Yes. And I think that's a fundamental place to begin with. Now, I think a place to also just lay a foundation is one key understanding, because this is where everything else flows. Particularly that there is a separate legal personality between an individual and a company. So, for example, Boris Realty Limited is a separate legal personality from Boris himself.
All right.
If Boris, something happened to Boris today, there was a legal suit against Boris the individual, there was something that happened against Boris individual, even if, God forbid, Boris individual passes on, the company still sustains.
All right.
It lives forever.
All right.
So that is the first and fundamental big difference, that there is a separate legal personality. And understanding this is where now all the legal obligations flows. And I think that is the purpose of this discussion today.
Amazing.
To understand what it means legally.
Now I understand that there is a company and then there is an individual. But then let me ask you, you said the business name is an individual.
Yes.
What do you mean?
So you see, people go, for example, if you go to the BRS, which is a business registration services in Kenya, you may register a business name. It's cheap. It's usually like 3,000 shillings, right? That in maybe in language that people will understand is a sole proprietorship.
I see.
So a sole proprietorship, actually, if you also observe, a sole proprietorship doesn't have a separate KRA pin from the company. Because you are the business.
All right.
See? So if I register Cheluget Enterprises as a sole proprietorship, if I die tomorrow, the business also dies. You know? If I have a problem with KRA, which is the tax authority, the business also has a problem with the tax authority.
I see.
So you see, it is always good to understand that. Another thing that I want to mention, Boris, this I've seen from many people, they usually confuse. For example, you have registered BORIS Realty, the company, then they think, no, but I own that name. No, it's different. So for example, you could register BORIS Realty today. Tomorrow I can go and register BORIS Cheluget Real Estate, because registration of a company doesn't mean registration of a name or of your logo.
All right.
That is a separate legal thing altogether, but we'll talk about it one day. Essentially, what is the intellectual property that comes as a result of owning companies in that way.
All right.
So all these things are things to think about, and also in terms of property and investments.
Amazing.
I'm sure they'll come in the course of this discussion.
Amazing. I mean, now I get to understand all these things. Now we can move forward.
Yes.
What I'm asking also, I'd like to know is, what is the benefit of owning property as an individual, right?
Yes.
The same also should apply on owning as a company.
Yes.
Benefits first.
Okay, so let's see. Perhaps we could just look at it in terms of pros and cons, right?
Oh, pros and cons.
So we measure both the benefits and the disadvantages.
All right.
When you're talking about benefits of owning the company as an individual, I think one big advantage that I would see is the ease of administration. Because you see, at the end of the day, the property is yours. You can decide however you want to use it, and so therefore you don't have to consult anyone. It's a property, right? In some cases, you have to consult your wife, Boris, especially if it is a matrimonial property, right?
We did a video. You saw it?
Boris,
it went viral. I mean, guys were complaining. Guys were, hey, no! I protected my wife, Look, I've realized something.
Yes.
That not so many know much about legal parts of real estate. That video went like bazaar, crazy.
Yes. No, it's important. It's important to understand. Also, I mean, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, someday, but also it's important to understand if I buy a property and then and my wife doesn't contribute a single shilling, what does it mean if we ever divorce? Does she get an entitlement to that property, So that discussion will come. Now, in the event where you have the property in your individual name, your wife would automatically have an entitlement to that property. Which is considered as a matrimonial property.
All right.
Now, on the other hand, the benefits of having it in a company would be, for example, it is a separate legal personality. You can, in the event of a liability, it doesn't touch on the individual, in the event of you have partners and people that you're with together, you can literally own it among many people. Let's imagine you're buying this apartment, 3 people.
All right.
Registering it among 3 people is very difficult, or even 10 people. You can imagine a title with 10 names. It's a bit cumbersome, right?
All right.
So the best thing about a company is that you can have it even in different unequal shareholding. You could contribute 30, I could contribute 50, someone could contribute 10, And
so you co-own.
Exactly. But you can't have that in an individual name. What are the disadvantages, Boris? I would say that maybe not disadvantages, but things to think about and jump through the hoops. First, there are compliances with respect to companies. For example, filing of your returns, especially the company returns, filing of your taxes, proper administration of the company, which you don't essentially have in an individual's name. But at the same time, in terms of taxes, you still have filings of taxes in your individual name. There's only corporate filings that are alive when you have it in a company name.
Wow.
Yes.
But then look, then what is the benefit of owning a property under an individual name then? Because you mentioned about the company. How about individual? Because most of our buyers sometimes would buy with their names and with their KRPs and,
For sure. How I look at it is always in this way. There is not a wrong or right way to do it. You always have to consider it based on what are your needs. And what is the situation. For example, let me give you an example of 2 clients. Client A wants to buy it and live, right? Client wants to buy it and live. Client B wants to buy it and have it as an investment. Do you see? Now, if I'm living in my house, it doesn't have to be in my company. There is hardly any legal liability that can come out of it. I cannot sue myself. I fell in the stairs. I get myself.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
But imagine if you buy a house, or if any of your customers buys a house, and then it's an Airbnb, someone comes, trips, or someone comes and loses their phone.
All right.
And that happens. It's on Airbnb, you come, someone comes and cleans, laptop disappears, right? So do you want people coming and suing you individually? You know? So how I like to look at it is, all of them are correct. It just depends on the use of the property. You know? So especially with respect to liability. Secondly, I would say if you're planning on, for example, investing and growing your portfolio, it makes sense to have it in a company, because then you can have one company, one umbrella company, and you can have all the properties and all the assets, you know? So that in the event, or if anything ever happens to you, the company just moves on. And then third, which is another point that I would have for consideration. Imagine you have a property that you own, right? And then you're looking for investors for whatever reason, right? You're looking for investors to come and say you have bought a house, but you want someone to come and furnish the house and manage it as an investor. For example, if you have it in your individual name, it is so difficult to go take the sectional title, go to lands and say, now I want to register Boris and give him 20% stake in this company. It is extremely difficult, right? But you can reflect that kind of partnership in a company. Remember, I mentioned you can reflect an equal ownership in a company, which you can't reflect in individual ownership.
All right.
Because in law, when the presumption under the law is that when we own property, you and I, in our individual name, it's something in law we call joint tenancy, or tenancy in common. So we have equal shares, for example, unless we state otherwise. That becomes extremely difficult. So I guess in to wrap up, Boris, all of them are correct. It just really depends on the use of the property that the person wants to have.
But then here is another thing. We know I've been in this industry for quite some time.
Yes.
And I get a lot of clients mentioning SPV, SPV. You've talked about the company.
Yes.
Then what's an SPV then? Good. Or when do you form an SPV?
Very good. Very, very good. Now, you see, SPV means a special purpose vehicle, right? A special purpose vehicle. And just from the word, we look at it in a legal form. It is ultimately just incorporated as a company, right? But the difference between a normal company and an SPV is that the SPV is for a special purpose. You see? It is a special purpose vehicle. So for example, Boris, you and I say, okay, so you know, Boris, I have this half an acre here, but you're a rich man. Can you finance the construction? I'll give you the land. Now, what we do, because we can't put all these things in a company, we create a temporary company. A special purpose vehicle for the specific purpose of to do what? To invest on the land, possibly to build. All right. So it would subsist for a specific period only. So for example, so the land would be put in the company, you'd put all the financing in the company, the building and the titles would come out in the name of this SPV, and then we would sell, and then the SPV is complete. The work is over. So it's a special purpose vehicle. Yeah, exactly. Mostly used for investments.
So it's a bit different from a company itself.
Yes. The reason why it is difficult is because you see, first of all, its lifetime is very short. Additionally, beyond just it being short, it would have very, very tight shareholders agreement.
All right.
So, for example, we'd have to be very clear who's financing, who's the owner of the land, how many percentage of shares do I get, what is the title that comes out of the land, you know? So do you pay me in terms of money, or do you give me apartments as my share in that investment, you know?
Okay.
These kind of things are not generally done every single day in a common company.
All right.
Yes. But the legal registration and the legal life is the same. They're all companies. Only this is a special purpose
vehicle.
Yes.
Perfect. Got you right. And thanks for that. I want you to also clarify something. You know, before we jump on this today, we always have to share this on our social media platforms, just to get our viewers and fans and clients all over the world on board, to allow them to float their questions, and then have a lot of questions for you here from our fans and clients all over the world. Very good. And someone was asking, I'll mention, it's called Anthony. Anthony is asking, what's the tax implication? Very good. Right? Yes. On the individual side and on the company side. Would you just clarify that shortly? Because this is very important for everyone who is watching.
Actually, I think this is one of the most important things.
Yes.
I'll tell you, Boris, to be honest, the KRA has created so many jobs for lawyers now.
What do you mean?
We're in court every single day fighting KRA. So 10 years ago, we didn't have tax cases. Now we have a lot of tax cases.
All right.
So see, that is employment.
I see.
I think that's what the president mentioned. He said, getting more jobs.
No. So we you say that's what the president meant when he said you're getting more jobs.
I can tell you, Boris, now there are tax expert lawyers. 10 years ago, they didn't exist.
Impressed,
This is happening because of exactly that reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like Anthony who don't understand what tax law is. But I'm happy that Anthony would like to know.
Yes.
And so let's talk about it. How would I put it? I'll try and break it down.
Yes.
For ease of understanding, there are different kinds of taxes. Okay. Specifically with respect to properties, let's talk about apartments, for example. Some tax that one of the biggest tax that you'd face is called monthly rental income.
Monthly rental income.
Or MRI.
MRI. CMRI, not the MRI we know.
No.
Oh, okay. It's a different one.
This is a different one. MRI is monthly rental tax. Then there would be other taxes, for example, corporate tax and whatnot. But let me talk about MRI. Monthly rental tax, just from the word, it means rent that you pay from getting rent monthly. So, for example, you have a tenant, a long-term tenant who stays there. They pay you rent every other month. There is
a tax you pay
called MRI.
All right.
And the MRI rate is 7.5% of the gross monthly rental income.
All right.
Okay. So this means if your tenant is paying you $100,000, or sorry, 100,000 shillings, then you pay every month to the government 7,500.
All right.
Okay. If your tenant is paying $1,000, you pay $75 every single month. Okay. Now this is irrespective of whether the property is owned in an individual name or in a company's name.
Irrespective.
It is irrespective.
Wow.
And I'll explain. So it is irrespective. Initially, there was a misunderstanding in the legal sector that, if you have it in a company, it is operated differently. But there have been cases that have been taken to the Tax Appeal Tribunal, which is a specialized court in the country that deals with tax. I'm actually a big practitioner at the Tax Appeal Tribunal. It matters tax.
All right.
And the court said it doesn't matter whether it is a company or it is an individual, the tax rate remains the same, 7.5%. Now, what does this mean for people? It means that, first of all, you have an automatic obligation to pay this. If you don't pay, do you know what it means? It means KRA can come to you and they can backdate your taxes up to 5 years.
Wow.
Yes. So we've had cases where guys have gone to court and their property has had to be auctioned by KRA because they're saying, no, but you see, you owe back taxes of about 5-6 million. We're taking over your property and we're selling it, you see? So that happens, right? All right. Now, if you have a company, it would also be the same tax rate of 7.5%. The only difference is that sometimes in a company you may have different taxes. So, for example, if you have a company that does purely your management of your property, it would pay 7.5%. But if it has other income generating activities, for example, you're also managing other properties, you're getting paid some money here and there, some other services, you'd have to categorize your different source of taxes and say, these are my taxes that I earned through rental income, 7.5%. These are my different incomes, a different tax application altogether.
All right.
But there are two exceptions to this monthly rental income tax. First, and this is always misunderstood, when you read the law, it says that foreigners or non-residents are exempt from MRI.
Yeah, explain that.
Exactly. That is
I love this.
That is always a misunderstanding. Now, what this means is that they're not generally exempted. It doesn't mean that they don't pay. It just means that they don't pay on a monthly basis.
All right.
Yes, you see, MRI from the word M is monthly. Right? But how it is computed for foreigners is that they would still, let's imagine in 1 year they have gained a rent of about $10,000, which is possible for a beautiful property like this, right? What it means is that at the end of the year, they will pay taxes which will be equivalent to 7.5% of what they have earned over that duration.
Serious?
Yes. The rationale is, can you imagine, Boris, if a foreigner had to pay taxes every single month? I mean, they're in the US or they're in Canada or whichever country. Every single month they have to make a bank transfer. It is extremely expensive, right? Sometimes if you're paying rent of, say, $75, if you're getting $1,000 in rent and you're paying $75, the transaction fees alone would be $50. So does it make sense to pay $50 in transaction fees to pay tax of $75? It doesn't make sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
So the government says, yes, you're exempt from MRI, but you still pay a tax
at the end
equivalent to 7.5%
at the end of the year.
Exactly. So this is one exception to MRI, but they still have that. They still have that application. Although, if you're actually, let me talk about the second exemption. The second exemption is if you have a property whose rent is more than 15 million in a year.
All right.
Okay. So let's imagine you have some of your clients who have penthouses, their rent, maybe they get in 1 year, they get 20 million.
Yeah.
Those kind of clients are not subjected to MRI. They'll be subjected to corporate tax.
Corporate tax, okay.
And what this means essentially is that they would be allowed to input expenses. So, for example, they have gained 20 million in rent. And it's possible, Boris, you know that, right?
Yeah.
They've gained 20% in rent.
20 million rent.
20 million in rent. They'll be allowed to offset the rent with their expenses. So they'll say, I've made 20 million agreed, but I spent 1 million to do this. I paid salaries worth 3 million. I paid this worth this. So my profit is 5 million. Okay. They then will pay 30% of their profits
To the
government.
As
to the
what?
government, yeah, as tax.
All right, as tax.
So they don't pay 7.5%, but they pay 30% of their profits.
That is corporate tax
Yes,
now
corporate
coming
tax,
in.
exactly.
Okay.
So if you exceed 15 million, then you're out of MRI.
Amazing.
Fall under the category of corporate tax, which is 30%
Right.
of your net profits.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So you were talking about the tax situation when it
Yes.
comes to company and individual.
Yes.
So you've mentioned about the MRI.
Yes.
And how about things like stamp duty,
Very good.
capital gains tax,
Very good.
and these income tax, blah blah. You know, just
Very
try
good.
clarify that.
Very, very good. So capital gains tax is applicable at any point when a person is selling the property. On the other hand, stamp duty is applicable at any time when a person is purchasing the property. So you see, these are two taxes but are looking at each other on opposite sides. The capital gains is paid by the seller because there's a capital gains on their part. The stamp duty is paid by the purchaser because they are purchasing the property. Okay. Stamp duty, especially for most properties in Nairobi, is at the rate of 4% of the value. So, I mean, regardless of wherever you're buying the property, most likely in Nairobi it's 4%. In some cases outside Nairobi, that percentage may go as low as 2%.
All right.
But in extremely rare cases where it is an agricultural land or land in places like Mavoko, you know, those kind of
areas.
outside municipalities.
Like my village.
Exactly.
All right.
It would be 2%. With respect to an individual and a company, again, the taxes are similar in both. So you'd still pay stamp duty the same in a company,
individual?
and also in a company individual, the tax rate would be the same.
All right.
The only difference is that with respect to tax, and maybe the safeguard that we have now, it is actually becoming increasingly a situation where many people are having taxes issue with the tax authority. And so the taxes are being continually, and many times taxes are being blocked, the tax numbers. The advantage is that in the event that happens, when it is a company, it doesn't affect you individually. So you can continue trading, you can continue getting paid your salary if you're earning a salary, and the company can deal with its own tax issues separately. You know?
But then look at this, I mean, you owning property as a company.
Yes.
And the reason why I've realized many people want to own property as a company is when they want to dispose.
Yes.
Or say, I would like to sell to Chelugate.
Yes.
I would sell to you the shares.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And just transfer the property in your name.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
in that case, I think with the company, is it that the company helps you, like, is it avoid, you avoid the CGT?
I see.
Right? So you
I
just
see.
do the transfers. They transfer the shares to you and you own the property. I mean, explain that.
Actually, this is very, very clever. I know it happens.
Yeah.
Technically, this is what happens when a property is owned by a company. It is considered in the company as an asset, right?
Yeah.
The same way your company would own a camera, vehicle, you know.
Yeah.
So if you sell a company, when you're selling shares, you're selling both assets and liabilities.
Yes.
So yes, technically speaking, of course, the tax authority has found other ways to try and catch people in that way. But technically speaking, I could essentially transfer shares to you.
Yes.
And no one would ever find out that there was any
Exactly.
property because it is registered in the name of the company. So that happens. But obviously, KRA is always finding ways to go around it.
Yeah.
For example, one way, there is something called a register of assets. Right? So, for example, the company is required to go and register its assets. People don't do that, actually. Many people don't. I'm sure many people don't know this.
Yeah.
But you should go and register your assets and your liabilities, right? So, in the event you're transferring, the government should understand what assets and liabilities are being transferred. But you see, technically, yeah, that could be a way to go around it. Just transfer shares, sell a company. I come and take over the property. I continue managing it.
All right.
And the best thing about it, Boris, is that there is no change in the registration of the title. So if the title came out in BORIS Limited, when you transfer the shares to me, it is still BORIS Limited. Yeah, so no one knows there was any change.
Just even if I individuals.
Exactly.
Yeah. Directors are moving.
Exactly. Yeah,
all right.
Exactly.
So it could be a smart way of. Is it avoiding or evading?
It is.
Which one is illegal?
Avoiding is allowable, is allowed.
But evading is bad.
Evading is a crime.
So that is avoiding.
Yes, it's
because you don't want to pay CGT.
Being clever, yeah. and also, also when you think about it, people, for example, trust the brand BORIS or the brand FTC.
Yeah.
If I'm buying, I want to also buy plus that brand. People tell me it's still BORIS.
The trust.
Yeah.
I see.
So you see, if they say, so now it is Franklin. No, we don't know this person. We don't want to work with them. You know? But today, if you sold your shares and the name still remains the same, people don't know what changed.
Yeah.
So it transfers together with the brand name.
And the trust comes
with the trust, yeah. Because no one needs to know that there was a change in shareholders.
Amazing.
Yes.
But then again, explain liability and risk management in both sides. Individual plus, versus company.
Risk, and you said risk, yeah?
Risk, and maybe risk exposed to, yes, exactly. Or liability exposed to when you own as an individual,
yes,
vis-a-vis owning as a company.
Exactly.
That is very important.
Very good. You know, actually, this is important. In law, we have a saying that law is alive in court. So you know, when you go to court,
I think I should start learning law.
Like the law lives in court. It doesn't live in books. It doesn't live in articles and papers. When you go to court, it is law alive. Because when you go to court is when you get to see the real application and what the law means, you know. And so that is the best way to appreciate the law. And this question is good because then this is exactly how you get to appreciate the law when you look at what are the risks and liabilities. And so because I'm initially trained as a dispute person, I'll talk about it from that perspective because it is super important. In terms of liability, let us imagine I have the property in my name as Franklin, right? So it is in my name. I go and run a business. Let's say I have a hardware somewhere. A totally unrelated business. I get into a contract with different suppliers and whatever. And then I get into a debt. So when I'm taken to court and there's a case against me and then there's judgment against myself, do you know that they will come also for my apartment?
All right.
Irrespective of whether or not it was part of the business operations.
All right.
So you remember that I got the debt because I was trading in a hardware, right? But when auctioneers come, they'll go and say, this guy has an apartment, they'll come to my apartment. So do you see, essentially having it in individual name is like putting all your eggs in one basket.
So if
anything happens to you, you are done. You are done, you see?
All right.
If today you are a persona non grata, let's imagine your client is, you've seen what has been happening
persona
in Tanzania.
Non grata, what do you mean? That's a confusing thing.
Sorry. Boris, we must be learned and be seen to be learned. So
all right.
Throw this difficult word somewhere. but I'll give you. Let's use an example of what is happening in Tanzania. It is unfortunate, but some nationalities, for political sake, I will not say, but some nationalities, for example, Kenyans are being targeted, are being told to leave the country, leave Tanzania, right? Now, can you imagine if someone bought an apartment, and it's very possible that many investors went to Zanzibar, Dar es Salaam, bought apartments in the individual names.
Yeah.
Now, if today Tanzania and Kenya had an issue, and then Kenyans became persona non grata, which means you cannot come in.
Okay.
Persona non grata means you are not allowed access to this place.
All right.
You and all your investments go down the drain.
All right.
Do you see? Because you and the property is one and the same thing.
All right.
But if I went and registered a Tanzanian company, or I hope it doesn't happen in Kenya, but if a foreigner registers a Kenyan company, that company is Kenyan by all purposes. Yes. So it is a Kenyan citizen.
Yes.
Even if the owner is not Kenyan, the company is Kenyan.
It's Kenyan, yes.
In the event, even if this person becomes a persona non grata, the property is still safe.
They're still safe, okay.
Because it is owned by a legal personality altogether. So that is one advantage, especially if it is owned by foreigners. So number one, in the event that you get into debt and then someone has to come and take over your property. Secondly, in the event you're unable to access a country for whatever reason, your property is still safe, Another liability that I would say, again, like I mentioned, in the event of taxes, it would be a separate legal personality. Also, especially if you're using it as a commercial purposes, if someone comes and says, something disappeared in here, you do not have to worry.
But then look at this, Sherian. I mean, you're owning property as a company and owning property as an individual.
Yes.
I think when you own as a company, you're exposing yourself too much to the taxman as compared to an individual.
I see.
So explain that, and I think it's true.
Yeah, actually,
Because you're only meeting the taxman when you're owning as an individual, when you're paying, say, when you're buying stamp duty, and maybe when you're paying, say, the rental income tax, or maybe when you're paying, say, capital gains tax.
Yes.
Many times you're not on the radar of the taxman. But when you're owning it as a company you always expose every year.
I see what you mean. So let me answer this in different ways. Number one, the company is a separate registry from the tax department. So KRA is a separate entity, arm of the government from the business registration services.
All right.
So first of all, those are two different entities, and many times they don't speak to each other. So you can find inconsistencies. You can find inconsistencies in one registry against the other. That's number one. Number two, like I mentioned initially, tax is not discriminatory. So remember, MRI is the same regardless of individual or company. Remember. So if you're getting rent from that property, it doesn't matter if you're an individual or if you're a company.
Yes.
But so when you look at it with respect to tax, it doesn't really create a big tax benefit. It mostly creates a liability and a protection benefit for you, in the sense that if it is in a company, that then you literally have a shield over you. Okay. Quite on the contrary, actually, I would say that owning it in a company would give you another advantage. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're running an Airbnb, right? If you're running an Airbnb, are you getting monthly rent? No. You know why? Because someone comes there today for 3 days
and leaves.
You stay 2 days, no one, and then someone comes for 1 week, goes, In 1 month, maybe you sell 20 nights, right? In another month, you're very likely you sell 28 nights, right? That is not monthly rental. It is not subject to monthly rental income.
What is that?
Right? It is going to be operated as a corporate tax if you put it in a company. So, for example, if you came to me, I would structure it in this way. I would tell you, so Boris, yes, you have an apartment. So, your earnings are inconsistent. We'll structure it as a company. So, these are incomes. But Boris, hold on.
Expense.
You have very good curtains. You have very good chairs. You have a very good table. How much did you spend to put all this things in place? So those are expenses. Okay, good. Let us knock off these expenses against your tax.
To reduce your tax.
Yes. Because these are expenses, and they're expenses. They're called input tax. That's what you said, input.
Input tax.
So they are input tax or input expenses to help you generate an income.
All right.
And another law, you should not be taxed on your investment. So, for example, if I spent 1 million shilling furnishing this property, I'd come and say, no, my expense is 1 million shilling. And what I'll do, Boris, is that I will spread the 1 million over 3 years. So I will say the first year, I made a profit of 300,000. But hold on, I had an expense of 300,000. So zero tax, right? Second year, no. But I also had, and remember expenses, so you have some fixed expenses. Chairs, mats, curtains, amazing. But you also have someone who's cleaning the house. You have your service charge, you have management, those kind of things. So you see, in a company's situation, you can literally go for several years, and you've done that for people. They've gone for several years without having to pay any tax. Because
when you plan
you remember? Because you're able to input your expenses. That doesn't really happen in an individual
I see.
Because you don't have that benefit.
Now look, the other concern would be, because property mostly is subject to inheritance.
Yes.
Good. It brings a lot of issues, temperatures and tension when it comes to inheritance.
Very good.
Now, what's your advice to anybody who's owning property, maybe say ownership of property via individual and company, when it comes to inheritance situation? Which one is better? Which one is, smarter? Yeah. Explain that.
I will tell you right off the bat that we're looking at it from a lens of inheritance.
Yes.
A company is absolutely the best route. For this reason, again, I like to use examples just to make it personable and relatable to the audience. If you have a property in your individual name and then you pass on, it automatically becomes property of the estate.
What do you mean the estate?
Okay.
The estate?
Most people think
what do you mean? Which estate is that?
But I live in Golf Course. I live in this estate. You know, estate. Which estate?
What estate is that? Confusing, you know.
I know.
Lawyers things,
yeah, oh my goodness, yeah. For example, in law we don't say children, we say issues.
Issues.
You know.
You don't say what?
Children.
You say issues.
Oh my you have to sound sophisticated. Comes with the profession.
I have a guy in my office who would love to sound like that.
Issues.
That's Roka.
So, estates in law essentially means property owned by a deceased person. Okay? So you remember, it comes from the colonial period. Nakumbuka zamani, people would say, this is his estate. He had a huge estate. Yeah, so it comes from that colonial understanding.
All right.
So for example, when you pass on, everything you own, your cars, your shares, your properties are all part of your estate. Yes, exactly. But it's not estate in the sense of living.
Yes, but
yeah? Yes.
Ownership, property.
Ownership, exactly.
Yes, cars, blah, blah, blah.
Everything, right? So if you pass on, two things actually happen. Number one, either the property automatically vests to your estate or it vests to your wife. Okay? So for example, if I lived in this house and I pass on the property, even if my wife, let's say I've separated with my wife, we're still married, but we've fought, she lives somewhere, she went with the children. If I die, automatically she gets what in law we call a life interest over the property. So she can literally just walk in and live here. Okay? And then she will then decide later on how the property will be divided among my children.
That is, it's an individual ownership?
It is an individual ownership.
Oh.
So in an individual ownership, you first of all, you lose. I mean, if you have a will, you can direct how these things has to be done. But if you pass on without a will, the law automatically kicks in. So it happens like that. But even let's even suppose that is not a bad thing. Let's imagine that is not a bad thing. So it is owned by your wife, your loving wife, or your children. That is fine. But the procedure of getting that change done is extremely difficult. So if you pass on, Boris, and then you have to transfer it to your children, you have to go to court, you have to file a case in court. We have to stay in court for months and months and months.
Even years.
I have cases that I've done now they're almost 18 years, in court. Big estates, right? Now, we'll have to go to court and wait until the court is satisfied with the case and then say, now, transfer the land to the children.
Yes.
Can you imagine, after years and years and years.
I know.
And even that, when that happens, you usually have to go to the land's office, maybe spend another 3 or 4 months to do the transfer. Just to simply transfer one property from your name to your son. Should it be that complicated?
No.
On the other hand, if you pass on, you could easily just go. You see, so the title is already registered in the name of BORIS Limited, right?
Yes.
Simply what I would just have to do is to go online, go to eCitizen, which everyone has access to, do a change of shareholding and directorship and say it is no longer now Boris, it is Boris Jr.
Or maybe it's done. Emily,
it's done.
Nyanjui, or maybe Ronjiru.
Yeah, and it's done, I avoid all this hassle of going to have to go to court, of having to go and do you know the process of registering and changing the names of a title is extremely difficult in the land's office, right? You have to pay people, you have to wait, the government tells you you have to wait for gazette notice. It's extremely complicated. The simpler thing is just to do a transfer of shares, Additionally, you could buy this property and then when in your old age you say now I don't want, you see, again, if it is your individual name, if it is individual name, even if you're alive, Boris, and then you want to do what is called succession or estate planning, you'd have to go and say, now I have 5 children. Now, what do? I have 1 property. Do I put them all in that property? It is extremely difficult. Do I give my firstborn to manage? They start fighting among themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So this is still if you're alive. So what you can essentially do if you have it in a company is to say, what I will do, me, Mr. James, I will simply give this property to Boris Realty to manage, and then Boris Realty will be sending money to this account of the company. And then I have my 5 sons, everyone gets 20% shareholding. Full stop. It's very easy. You see? So Boris Realty can manage everything for you. They'll do tenancy, they'll do rent collection,
Yeah.
And they'll simply just send you a check end of the month to a certain account, and everyone in the family gets 20 shares or 20%.
That's beautiful.
It's spread across the board, you see? So looking at it in terms of estate planning, whether you're alive or deceased, which is deceased in law, deceased means dead. If you're alive or if you're dead, it is still advantageous to have it in a company.
And a company is easier to transfer as compared to an individual.
Transfer, management, ownership, control. Yes.
No, but then again, look, I'm really, really intrigued in this. And we did this thing yesterday and crazy questions came in. There's a guy called David asked, what's the situation when it comes to loan, access to loan?
Very good.
Explain that.
Actually,
individual
versus
and company.
Very, very good. Now, I don't know if you've looked around, but banks are very hesitant to give loans to individuals.
Is it because they don't trust us?
Yeah,
Is it because you're not Kenyans? Come on.
No.
Banks in Kenya, come on.
It is when banks are giving out loans, what are the biggest things that they're looking at? Risk. Because their money is at risk, right?
All right.
Their money is out there, so the biggest thing is risk. So if you have it, if they give Boris, the guy, money, this guy, man, can just disappear. He can decide to go to the Bahamas. And, go
he
and
enjoys the money and
comes back.
and there's nothing he can do.
Yeah, I mean, and Boris is just a simple man, he just fell into some money, he disappears,
Yeah.
or even Boris can pass on.
Yeah.
How do they start getting money back from Boris? So banks, in terms of risks, are very, very scared to give loans to individuals.
All right.
Now, but putting your property in a company creates some form of an investment.
All right.
So, for example, the bank would look at that property as an investment because it would mean if you have it in a company, you're making some money. Before you get access to a loan, they'll be like, okay, can we see your bank statements to see how much rent you get in a month? Those kind of things. So they would easily qualify for loans if you put it in a company than if you put it in individual name.
All right.
Because let's face it, Boris, many times if you have it in your name and then money comes, if the tenant pays money to you in your pocket today, immediately M-Pesa.
Use it.
You're doing this, you're doing this.
Yeah.
You can't have a sense of accountability. You can't even have a statement to it, right?
Yeah.
But if it is in a company, you can literally show this is my
Statements,
statement.
yeah.
I get paid 50,000 every single month.
Yeah.
And so therefore I qualify for a
Or
loan
given
of
loan.
1 million,
Yeah.
So it is very easy to access loans and facilities if it is in the name of a company
As compared to individual.
and maybe just to add on that, one thing that we've also advised, especially when you have people who have a good number of properties, is again not to put everything in one basket. So like we have clients who come to us, they have even up to 8-10 properties. Tell them, let us see. What is your plan in the long run? Do you want to take out a loan at some point? Yes.
Yeah.
So then let us identify 2 properties only for that purpose. So we'd set up several companies, company A, company B. Company B is just for investments. Company A, we have planned to take a loan facility against their income.
Ah,
See?
I see.
So we'll say we have these 2 properties, they give us 200,000 a month. These are the statements, So we'll take a loan against these 2 properties in company A. Okay? And then company B just continue trading and does that. What this does is that it also limits your liability.
All right.
Because, Boris, business is business. Sometimes things happen, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So if it happens that then your business fails and then the bank wants to come, don't put all your properties in one company.
All right.
Separate them. Because again, the bank can only come for the company that took out the loan. So even if they know you have company B, they can't touch company B.
All right. That is risk management.
Yes, exactly. They can't touch company B. They only go to company A. And they will not touch Boris individually. They'll go to
separate
company A.
All right.
You see?
All right.
So we always advise that if you don't get good advice and you put all your 10 properties in one company, then the bank comes and says, oh, this guy is rich. They can even sell a good number. They'll tell you, oh, we didn't get any money, And you don't know how they do these things.
All right.
So if you're growing your estate, consider also just diversifying your investment to do what you've mentioned as risk management.
But let me ask you, what are the common mistakes you do realize or get when it comes to property ownership, either individual ownership or company ownership? The common mistakes you see mostly from buyers, owners.
I think the biggest and most costliest mistake would be the failure to understand the tax administration. Because increasingly we are living at a point where the tax authority is very, very strong.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, by the way. Boris was in the news last week. Now KRA is implementing the use of AI.
Yeah,
in tax collection. So what this means is that it will have access to everyone's M-Pesa, and AI will tell. And you know how powerful AI is.
Yes.
In 1 hour, it can look at all the M-Pesa settlements in the whole country and know even this hustler guy is earning some money, right? So we are moving towards a point where increasingly, again and again, the tax money is becoming very, 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 very strong.
Yeah.
Our advice is always, instead of looking at trying to find ways to avoid
paying taxes,
just to simply understand, right?
Yeah.
Because if you understand and then you're able to plan, then you can comfortably invest in peace. You don't have to always look over your shoulder. Oh, KRA is coming. So the main thing that people don't understand, for example, if you understood that every month I'm supposed to pay rent, I'm supposed to pay tax of 7,000 shillings. 7,000, just increase the rent by 7,000 shillings if you still want to get to 100,000 at the end of the month, you know. Just increase, you know, or increase half, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like the Bible says, my people die because of lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's the same way. People literally have made big mistakes because of lack of knowledge.
All right.
So I think the biggest mistake first is the failure to understand what is a tax administration. Secondly, is failure to understand liabilities, what liabilities mean in the event of worst case scenario, because it happens, you know.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I would say just failure to understand you know, the laws governing investments generally all day, because there are so many investments, there's so many laws that govern investments for both foreigners and local.
Yes.
But it's just good to really understand what that means. Let me mention one other thing. Now, this is with respect to foreigners, what it means for foreigners to own properties in a company. Like I mentioned first, it is a protection against your investment in the event there is a dispute between the two countries.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So that is an automatic protection because the company is a local company. So it doesn't face discrimination. It is not considered American or
no, it's Kenyan.
Yeah. Additionally, in the event that this foreigner wants to, for example, get any kind of visas or immigration, any kind of permits in future, most of those permits, is, for example, an investor's permit would most likely be issued to a company.
All right. Easily,
exactly. So for them, it also makes a lot of sense to have them in a company
as compared
so then they can be able to plan. So last thing I'll say, Boris, on this question, look at it from the end backwards. What is it that I want to achieve in this investment? Do I want to live in it? Do I want to have it as an investment? Do I want to make money out of it? Do I want to have it as an Airbnb? Do I want to have it as a long-term stay? You know, because then if you understand the end backwards, it can then be able to help you structure out your journey. Is it a company? Is it an individual? What are the taxes applicable? You know.
Yeah.
So, but you must always look at it from the end backwards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was Cheluget, and Cheluget is a serious legal mind. He understands issues concerning that is purchase of real estate, right? Law, tax, and blah, blah, blah. And we had a sit down here to discuss about property ownership, individual versus, you know, company. And I've gone into understanding, you know, all those risk management, access to loans and blah, 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 managing your estate. And I think, Cheluget, from this, I've managed to learn a lot. And trust me, from now going forward, I'm going to own property via a company.
Yes.
And trust me, from here, we're going to go straight into your office and I'll open, right, a company with you to own my properties.
Yes,
I mean, it's very smart.
Yes, it should.
But then before we end this, I want my fans and clients all over the world to get to know more about you, which company, where do you practice, and how can they find you?
Very good. Thank you very much, Boris. Like I mentioned, my name is Frankline. I am a lawyer based in Nairobi, Kenya. I am a specialized investment lawyer. So I specialize purely in investment, in a field of investment called foreign direct investment, which is an investment which is done by individuals, right? Most of the clients that we service are foreigners because they come in that way, but they quickly graduate to domestic clients, right? And essentially what we do for you, either locals or foreigners, is that we help you structure your investments in the most legal, secure way, right? So instead of having to find, shoddy ways of running around taxes and whatnot, we simply help you put a very good tax strategy, a very good investment strategy. And that's essentially what we do. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. It's been quite a minute. And I manage and founded a legal company called FKC Legal, right? You can, I'm sure we'll put the link on the bio, but you can easily reach us on our website, FKC Legal, or through our email, jambo@fkclegal.com. And we're always very happy to just work with investors to help you grow. And we essentially just believe in helping you put in place your investments while being compliant. So you can have peace of mind instead of running around and looking over your shoulder, because we think that is the most sustainable way to do your investment. Yes.
Amazing. That was Cheluget. I mean, thank you so much, Cheluget, for gracing this podcast. This was Realty Boris podcast. I don't know podcast what. I don't know, 15, 20, I have no idea. But then a big thanks to the developer to allow us to just shoot this on their property. It's a 1-bedroom. It's in the market. They have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms on sale. 1 bedrooms from 9 million. 2 bedrooms from around, say, 12 million, and 3 bedrooms from around, say, 70 million. In case you are interested, the number has always been on your screen. I will get to see you on our subsequent podcast. It's a guy, Boris Yeltsin. They still call me the Wolf of Real Estate. And with me is...
Frankline.
They call you?
The wandering lawyer.
Amazing.